Welcome back to Straight Talk. Yeah, the border crossing issue we were talking about before the break.
And during the break.
And during the break, yeah. It's something it has to be confronted on all kinds of levels. And so at least part of the problem, I think, is that on the Confederacy level, they've got to really buckle down and do that. Don't shoot me for saying that, but because I think that's part of the issue here is in terms of documentation. The number one is I don't know why anybody would pull out a passport to cross over, because either side of that line, and Akwesasne is the ideal place to have that discussion, because it straddles the border.
And
It straddles New York State,
right, and it's right
Ontario, Quebec.
their own territory is
right.
cut up. And
Right. And those things have been imposed on that, and so they get caught in the middle of
It's a logistical nightmare.
And looking
and it's
at it
all our
larger,
territory.
looking at it at the larger
Yeah.
picture, all our territory spans these
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, this I think this is going to be, I guess, an issue that it's going to be continuous all the time, is because like when they started to demand now more, especially for the new enhanced native status card that still people are waiting to get or apply for, or whatever the circumstances that they're in, is one thing. But then with the passport issue is another, because the community is sort of, I don't know if you call it divided, but not most, but a lot of people that I speak to, some haven't applied for that new status card at all, but a lot of people had gone for passports because they said, I don't want to get stuck not doing anything. I want to go on vacation. I don't want no problems. I want to fly to Mexico, or I want to fly to England, or I want to fly wherever I want to go. I don't want to be stuck anywhere because I'm not following the rules and regulations of what they want. Although I don't agree with it, I don't want to be stuck in my own.
Just that it's convenient. That's what
Yeah,
it
but,
is.
you know,
It's more convenient that way. I personally will not get that card. I won't apply for the new one.
I'm in the same boat.
My old one is expired, and I've used it to cross the border. And I think if more people applied for the Haudenosaunee passport or documentation, maybe that would force them to look at it a little more seriously and say, look, enough of these people want it. They're applying for it, and if all of us held that document, it might hold a little more water.
But you see, there's a controversy with that also, is because let's look at the big picture right now. In this community alone, right? Some people can get a band card from the community, some people can't. Right? There's two different lists. You can't do it. When we talked last time about the Haudenosaunee passport, it was the same thing. There's criteria there also. Although that you may have a status card, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a Haudenosaunee passport. So there's a screening process there also. You have to do it in, I think it's Onondaga, but Kahnawake has a representative that's sitting on that has to screen that. So there's
You have to go through Kahnawake.
There's a screening process. Anyway, there's a screening process for that. So some people may not be eligible for that. So, and some people, you know what? The only card right now, unfortunately, that everybody is eligible for is the new Canadian enhanced Indian status card that everybody is, I guess, anybody can get as long as you can prove that you're native. But where the problem is that you can't get one from this community, you can't get the Haudenosaunee because there's too many different criterias. So that's why it becomes a bigger issue. So a lot of people fall into that category. So what do? You still want to travel freely. There's still a lot of things that they don't agree on everything either. Their criterias are all different. The criteria in Canada is different from the criteria here, different from the criteria in, if you want to, like Ganassadage or Akwesasne, everybody's criteria is different. So what do you do?
All right.
That's what I'm saying is,
Okay.
but people, there has to be something.
You know what you don't do? Conversely, it's also what you do. Is you have leadership. Okay. No. Look at the past 5-6 years in Kahnawake. What did you have? You had members of the Mohawk Council telling you how to get a passport. Instead of saying, you know what, if we all pull together and we all stick together, we know it, just like in Paul K. Dybel, blah, blah, okay, that if we put ourselves together as a community to advance this issue, decide what you want to do, decide who you want to be, okay, and then move forward.
But the downfall is they can't even agree on the membership. So how can you
Well,
go?
all right, never mind the Mohawk Council now. Let's shift gears, because one of the things I remember, and I talked to people from the 207 who, by and large, were involved with the whole process with Homeland Security.
And they still
And I
involved.
said, you know what? I don't understand. You know what? There are all kinds of people there were people that were never Longhouse asking me about, have you know anything about because we don't want to get that new card. You know, we want to get that identification, okay? And it was a gimme. So all of a sudden, you know, it was a big issue. Well, you know, we have our criteria too. Well, you know what? That's a take it. Give everybody who comes that you know who Chrissy is, you know who her mother is, blah, blah, you know, whatever. Give them a card, okay? And make it the only card there. You know what? Coincidentally, the weekend after this happened was actually, I don't know if it was Powell weekend or the weekend just after, 'cause I got a call from Tyndonega about this thing. Did you hear about this? Blah, blah. Well, every year, crossing over, I believe, I don't know if which crossing it is, but I think it's the one in between Kingston and whatever. They have an annual border crossing event. And one of the things that, you could do is make an issue of it, is, you know what would happen if 2,000 people from Kahnawake ended up at the border? Pick a border, the biggest possible one we could cross, which nobody really does, but make it an issue. And that's the only documentation that you would have.
Well, the thing is and I know, like I said, I know that there is a process. What is actually the process? A lot of people don't even know. I really don't know, other than a handful of people who actually have a Haudenosaunee passport.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like how does one go about getting that? If we wanted to band together, do we have the resources to actually be able to do that?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, are you going to clip my wings and I'm going to stay here and wait? You know, like I'm going to get stuck here basically. And unfortunately, it's like, yeah, you say, okay, well, I'm going to, on principle, I'm not going to do this. But in the meantime, then you're seeing leadership, or you're seeing other people going about and doing, you know, it's just, personally, I'm just saying, personally speaking, that there's a little bit too much inequality that goes on there.
Well, no, but don't mislead
Just
people.
realize that?
No.
Don't mislead people.
I'm just bringing it up
Don't,
as
look,
a.
my point is, don't mislead people. Don't sit there and say, you know what, I got a passport, nothing I sign is going to make me less what I am. I'm not a Canadian. I'm going to give you a little letter,
Yeah.
and it's going to say, well, we signed this in protest. Baloney, you signed it, and you signed off on being this Canadian citizen, and now you're telling people how to do it, and for the convenience of going to Cancun. You know, okay, whatever. But make up. We need to make up our mind. Like, I don't know if the lady in Akwesasne, maybe she shouldn't have pulled out a bank card. Which do you want? Which do you want to be? You know, those are things we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Anyways, we can't solve it all today, no matter what I say.
Definitely not.
We're
Despite Ross's efforts, he's not going to solve
going
it.
to take a break, and then we'll come back after this. Don't go away.